If you run an e-commerce brand, then you know already that email marketing is one of your main channels for attribution and revenue generation. But with that being said, you probably don't realize that you're secretly bleeding a ton of money, and that's exactly why I have this video today, because I just went over a backend and I'm going to show you live how I've added an additional 50 to 100K in additional revenue to a brand that was already attributing 40% of the email revenue. But the issue is that they were over attributing, which I can almost guarantee my left kidney on that you're doing as well. And so I've put this together to make sure you know how to live audit your account without needing an agency to do it for you, number one. And number two, making sure that you know what mistakes are commonly made because you're probably already making them and how to fix them. So with that being said, I'm going to jump into the backend and show you exactly what I cover. All right, so first things first is we'll open up the Klaviyo backend, and there's a few things that I'm going to take a look at. I like to go kind of in order to give me a pretty good idea, but the main thing that I start with is the analytics on the homepage, because they're going to tell me what percentage of revenue is being attributed and whether it's an over attribution or an under attribution. And generally the benchmark should be about 35%. And so this is doing what it could, but sometimes it's hidden revenue. Sometimes we'll go into a backend and we'll see that it's only 10% of attribution, which is exciting because it tells us that we should see 20% average increase to their overall revenue if we just implement campaign revenue or email revenue. So this is the first thing that we look at, right? And so for this brand, it's fine. It looks good, but there's probably a few things, right? And so what I recommend that you do is you go to your settings of the account and you go to the attribution window. The attribution window is over attributed. This is a huge issue. You want to make sure that this is set to 3 days, right? For both of these. 5 days. What that means is, let's just say that you send an email on Monday and the person opens the email on that Monday, but they don't actually place an order. But then they see a retargeting ad from you on Friday. That gets them to place an order. That should be attributed to ads and not email. But the way that this account has it set up is that will give Klaviyo the attribution, which is absolutely not true. So this is the first thing I always check in every single account is the attribution window. Then I want to go take a look at their revenue and see what's been happening month over month. And what this is going to do is it's going to give me a really good idea of where the brand is sitting in terms of, their conversions by channel, their conversion summary, etc. And so I like to take a look at this. So November, of course, was their biggest month. And ever since then, they've kind of been doing, average revenue. But I would like to see their email revenue and their average email revenue hit August's numbers. Now, let's go down and we can see the flows to campaign attribution. This I can tell immediately is way too low. So generally the split that we want to see is a maximum difference of 70-30. But if we're talking ideally, it should be 60-40. So 60% of attribution should be to campaigns and the other 40% to flows. And so they have an under attribution in terms of flows. That's probably where most of the revenue can be made up. So you can see flows are barely moving the needle for them. So if we really want to, we should say that just on average, their average minimum is around 350K, right? And then now recently they got it to about 450K. So what we want to do is we want to set a new benchmark. First, we want to see if we can reach 450K reliably, since it is pretty unreliable, but we want to try and add an extra 50K or so. This is just based on guesstimations because they have hit like 1 million before, and they have hit the 605K and 700K. And so what I want to do is I like to sometimes understand what they were doing in their best months to get that revenue. But for now, I'm just going to say a mental note that I think I want to try to get 500 minimum just on the first month, taking them over, and I want to understand how. And so we're just going to look at emails for now, and then we're going to take into account their SMS, since SMS is not the biggest lever for them right now. It still contributes to a degree, so especially September, October, so we probably have to include SMS because that's the extra 50% that they're missing, or the $50,000 that they're missing. So SMS needs to be really on it. Right now, it is under attributing. So it's good to know. So let me start with taking a look at their sign-up form. The sign-up form is a huge attribution window for potential. So let me take a look what they got going on over here. So They've got a bunch of different lists, but it looks like the save 10% off SMS list is not doing too well. Ideally, we want to mix this. In my opinion, we should always have a different form, and the form should always be a minimum of 7% submission, bare minimum, and it should mix email and SMS. So that's the first thing that I would build out for them. Now let's take a look. Since this is only 1.6% of people, submitting, they got 46,000 people in the last 7 days looking at the form. So, we're not really getting too many submissions. So if we just, in theory, let's just say that best case scenario, we could increase this, by 5% or so. We could get 5 times the submissions. And so instead of 755, if we do the calculation super quickly, so 755 times 5, we would get 3,775 people. So we would be getting 3,000 additional signups on the form if we built this out correctly. 3,000 additional people in a 7-day period is a lot, because that will end up compounding. And so we'll end up with 12,000 additional people. So there's 12,000 people that we could get to buy a product. So first thing I would adjust is the sign up form. I don't like the way they've set it up right now. It is too specific. Rather a general sign up form, and 10% off might also be the issue. It's not moving the needle. In full context, this is a clothing brand. And so for clothing brands, generally you want $1 off, since it is higher AOV. And so higher AOV brands, you do want $1 off. That's the first thing that I'll take a look at. Now let's go take a look at their actual campaigns. So what this is going to tell me is how often they're sending and who they are sending to. So it seems that sometimes they'll send multiple times in a day, and this is because it is a drop that they're sending to different segments. So they're doing well-timed sends, they're doing a bunch of sends, so that's great. So they're getting great engagement on them, great sales on them, especially when they are obviously running a deal. So that's fine. So I don't have concerns about campaigns, which are one of the first times I'll ever say that. Their opens are very great, but now this brings up something else. Their open rates are actually arguably too good. And what I mean by that is they're probably not broadening their sends too much, considering how healthy their deliverability is. So that brings me to wanting to understand their segmentation a little bit more. What I like to do is I like to personally understand life cycles. This is going to tell me where our strategy should actually be. This is, of course, going to be different because they need very specific breakdowns of their brand, and they have their own approach, basically. But what I want to do is I want to understand what their life cycles are. So what I would first do to understand, if I'm auditing an account, where the fruit actually lies. Where can you generate revenue from? It's going to be in these. So what I would do is engage 180 days, right? So this is the bare minimum. You're going to send most of your campaigns to these people unless there's a reason not to. So let's just say it's at least 3 times in the last 180 days. So these are hyper engaged people. So there's 179,000 of them, which is great. That means we can actively send to 179,000 people. We're getting an average of 70% open. So that puts us in a pretty good place. Now what I want to do is lapsed customers, right? And so what this is now is anyone that has placed an order at least once over all time, and they have not place an order in the last, let's just say, 90 days, right? For wellness brands, this might be slightly different. So we have this list of 233,000 people that have placed an order at least once, but they haven't returned. And let's even broaden this. Let's say 120. Okay, 120 day. This is going to be one of the biggest levers for us, is if we can get these people to come back. They're already a hot lead. They bought something from us. Now we just need to show them something else they might like. And then let's do this. And this one, I want to say one-time purchases equals 1 over all time. So these are people that have only ever placed an order once. So this now gives us, only one-time purchases, which is fine. And then what we're going to do is we're going to compare this to people that are repeat purchases. And what this is going to tell us is if there's a weakness in our post-purchase journey, or if there's a weakness in the way people enjoy our products. So we're going to say place an order. Let's say it's at least 2 times over all time. Cool. So that's not actually a major drop. So generally, this is a lower repeat purchase rate, right? Generally, we'll have people that have a list size. Let's just say 200,000 people have purchased at least once, but then 25,000 people are repeat purchases. There's a huge difference in that. So repeat purchases, perfect, gives us really good context. So surprisingly, their post-purchase is good. Now what we need to do is we probably need to convert first-time buyers at a higher rate to increase month-over-month growth. So they are bringing a ton of people to the list and the form and everything, but we need to convert them. That's number one. Increase new time conversions, because that should be our priority if it's not a repeat customer issue. Now we can always obviously try and increase this number with our one-time purchases, of course. And then, of course, we have the lapsed customers as well. So lapsed customers is going to be a huge low-hanging fruit. Engage 180 days is going to be great for expanding our sends. So these are the lists that I would focus on. I'm not complicating anything. I'm not trying to overcomplicate anything at all. I'm really just trying to figure out, okay, at the bare minimum, number one, where's the sign-up form at? Does it have a 7% submission? No. Okay, we need to change it. We need to run some split tests there. Number two, campaigns. Are we sending frequently? Yes. So we don't have to change anything there. Who are we sending to though? And that brings me to segments. Are we too narrow in our sends? Are we sending to the right people? No, we're not. And so these are the segments we need to send to. Now comes the fun part, and this is the more complicated part, is the flows. So in the flows, this is going to tell us a lot of where things are at, right? So let's go over here. Flows to me is a huge important baseline. We should see that welcome, cart, and checkout are our top performing flows. If they're not, there is massive room for improvement, and they're not right now. In fact, they're not doing nearly enough considering the amount of people that actually go to the list. And so the welcome series, let's take a look at how conversions are actually looking over here. 5.5%, which is not terrible, but the issue is that this is a 1 minute wait time. Generally, we want to make sure that people going into here get this email immediately, otherwise they're going to lose interest. So this is huge. Make sure this goes immediately. Then in terms of this, would probably change up the design, which we have already done and audited. But for your sake of knowing why, with this email and the welcome series, the logic is always to try and get the first time customer to purchase immediately. And so usually you have to show categories and not bestsellers, because if you show bestsellers and they don't see something they like, they're less likely to purchase because they think that's all you have. So you want to do the thinking for them. We would probably make this a bit more aggressive and wait 1 day before the next email send. And the reason for that is because you can see that suddenly the performance drops immediately. And so what they probably needed is a bit more of a walkthrough of the brand. They needed a bit more of a brand story. They needed to buy into the brand. Clothing is very different. Well, with a welcome flow, if you see that there's this intensive drop straight off of the first email, then something is going on and you need to change the approach. And ideally, this should be 4 to 5 emails. Email number 1, showing their offer immediately. Email number 2, a plain text reminder to these people. Email number 3, context on the brand. And then email number 4 is some kind of like differentiator. How we're superior? Who are we as a team? How did we make this brand? A little bit more of that. And then the last email is an email from the founder or something to that degree. So that should be the setup of this email flow. This immediately will recover a bunch more revenue. You would be surprised about how much those follow-up emails actually generate. Now let's go take a look at their abandonment email, because this, I can tell they're just using the general setup on Klaviyo. This is a huge issue. They're losing so much revenue and they don't even realize it, because although this is the standard setup on Klaviyo is really terrible. And so this is not following best practice at all. First of all, they get re-entry way too soon. Otherwise, every 4 days, they're going to get re-entered into this. That is not good. Ideally, the re-entry should be a longer wait time, ideally 7 to 14 days. Then the wait time on this is terrible. They have just gone to the billing page. Think about your day. What did you do 4 hours ago? You were probably in a very different state of mind. It is a long time. 4 hours is a very long time. For me, 4 hours ago, I was just about waking up. And so the time delay between then and now is huge, and the intention changes. This needs to be completely reduced to like 30 minutes as of right now. I would change that to 30 minutes. Can receive SMS, that's good. And I would build out a little bit more of intentional SMS sending, to be honest. This is way too long. although it's just the code. Yeah, this I would change the wording for. Ideally, we would send something like, hey, your order is already being packed, ready to go, just complete it here. So it adds that urgency and the guiltiness of it. Then this should have a lot higher placed order rate. We generally want to aim for about 6%. It's not terrible though, but the issue is that there's no follow-up emails. Generally, the conversion will happen on email 2 or 3. And this is way too limited. We ideally need to show them exactly what they left behind. We need to populate that. And we need to make sure that they feel that urge, and they're not going to feel that from this. The CTA is way too low down. They're not showing what they left behind. And ideally what we should have in here is we should have some pain points. People didn't just leave their cart because they wanted to or they got distracted. The reason is because they didn't trust you, number one. Or number two, they got a little bit of buyer's remorse. They weren't sure about shipping times. Those are the things that need to be mentioned in here. So super quick, easy lifts to revenue, even though they're doing high attribution, which is not true because the attribution window is actually too high. The way that we're going to fix that is actually by making sure that we're building out strategy, and that needs to apply to the cart and the checkout. The cart's not even listed here. In fact, they probably don't even... Okay, they do have one. So yeah, that should be a lot higher in revenue. And just by making additional emails in these flows, they're going to regain a ton of revenue. I would gauge an extra 20K per month just from the flows if I'm being conservative. Extra 20K per month from the flows, extra, let's just say another 10K just from the sign-up form if we're being conservative, if we just get a bare minimum of 5% submission, even though we should technically be getting a 7% submission minimum. So extra 10K there, that's an extra 30K per month just by dialing in SMS frequency and strategy. We know that that's supposed to be 50K per month, so they'll add an extra 30K since they're doing a 20K average right now. By expanding their list, so we've already added on 50K just based on those small changes. By expanding their list sent, we are going to be able to increase that even more, and we'll probably, just by increasing who we send to, because you can see the open rates here, but we have a list size of 156,000 people that have engaged, or at least, what was that number? Let's go take a look. So those are actually just purchases. So they should technically be sending to 179,000 people that are engaging, and at least 159,000 people that have opened. But it seems that they're not doing that, and they're, just prioritizing for smaller sends. So this one, 36,000 people open, 36,000 people open. So very rarely are they sending to the right amount of people. Right, so this one was 130K that they sent to, which is better. But I think that they need to expand their sends. They need to focus on the segments that actually matter. And they probably need a little bit more data from their audience to make sure that they can be more strategic with sends. What do the audience needs to see? What do they want to see? And so I would make sure that the lowest hanging fruit is keep the same sending pattern, but send to the right lists and build a strategy around that. Build and fix those flows. That is the number one thing. And then as you dial those in, just getting an actual functioning, high-performing welcome, cart, browse, and checkout, then comes the time where you can build a win-back flow to gauge those lapsed customers. And also a post-purchase flow to make sure that the one-time purchases actually do turn into repeat customers. Since, we could have easily turned 159,000 people into repeat customers. So there's that. Keep in mind that combined, this is a list size of around 100 or 280,000 people. That's who we should be sending to. 380,000, sorry. So in general, we should ideally do at least 1 or 2 sends to 380,000 people every single month minimum. And then that would be how I would make sure that they make an additional easy 50K to 100K every single month in additional revenue. Just super easy lift. There's no additional cost to that. If they just implemented those things, it would make a huge difference to their revenue. And instead of the 450K or so that they're sitting at, we would be able to get them to 500, 550 reliably, which is a huge increase in revenue. Just 100K per month in additional revenue without needing to spend more on ads is a huge lift to any e-commerce brand that is a little bit more bootstrapped or cash tied, because cash flow is always an issue for e-com brands. So with that, that's exactly how I would audit an account. Always take a look at, first of all, can you notice any major red flags with their revenue attribution? And make sure that the attribution window is actually correct, because I can guarantee that this is over attributing. So instead, I will change this to a 3-day attribution. I would make sure they're not seeing false numbers. And then I will go take a look at, okay, where's the submission format? Is it getting at least 7%? No. Let's fix it. Campaigns, are they sending enough? No, then increase the amount that they send and change who they send to. Segments, are they sending to the right people? No, they're not at all. We need to change who they send to and the strategy of who they send to. Then flows, most important thing. Easiest lift to revenue is the fact that their flow revenue was not attributing at least 30% to revenue, which means that needs a lot of improvement. And we found that very quickly. They didn't have enough emails in their flows. You should have at least 3 to 4 emails in their abandonment series and their welcome series. They didn't. They have 1 email each. Then are they incorporating SMS enough? No, we changed that. With all those changes, it's going to be an easy 100K revenue to their lift, or a lift in their revenue. And I think they'll make a huge difference. So with that being said, hope this was helpful. This is exactly how I would audit an account. Now, if you want us to come in and do a free audit for you, go down below, book in a call. I'll personally go ahead and put together an audit if you qualify. And the way that you qualify, it's super simple. We only work with brands that make a minimum of $50,000 per month. Would love to work with you. We're expanding our portfolio. We work with hundreds of different brands, and we would love, love, love to make a difference to your brand. So go down below, book in that call. I'll see you on the other side. But for now, otherwise, just subscribe. I'm going to keep adding some value.